All right, Beardos, Beardettes, in betweens, we're back again. Brought to you here by a question from Mr. Payne here. Shout out to a long term homie. So he's asking a good question. I want to make a video on it because it's a good question. And I think to answer properly, trying to fit in a paragraph would not do it justice. So basically, I asked, what kind of performance loss do you get your stream with OBS? And I was like, not sure what he's asking, so I asked him to clarify it. And he says, through the service, if I was to be streaming on Twitch or YouTube, would the bandwidth being used for streaming affect the game quality? I have gigabit internet basically up and down. Short answer, yeah. Yeah. Long answer, probably not. And that's why it's hard to do justice. So right now, I am streaming to YouTube unlisted in 4K, max settings, max encoder settings on a 4090. Okay. And that is this screen here. Boosteroid is up. We're gonna run a game on Boosteroid. If you don't know what Boosteroid is, it's a game cloud streaming service. Go check them out. Links down in the description. They're giving away a free month of Game Pass Ultimate. They're doing a really great deal on annual subscriptions for the 4K servers. So basically, you get a 4K custom AMG CPU, 7900 XT PC in the cloud that you get to play all your games on from different platforms that you own them on, including free to plays. And you can play up to 4K 120. It's hard to answer that question because depending on how your internet is provisioned and set up, it could affect it very much because you're going to pull between 60 and 80 megs download. Okay, and you think, well, I have a gigabit, that's not a big deal. Yes, but it's all about on how traffic is being managed. So if you just have an ISP that set your stuff up, it could possibly. But more than likely not on a gigabit. For the people that don't have, gigabit and they got coaxial, which is more outdated than fiber or DSL or satellite, whatever. And even mobile, to a case, it's something you really would have to test. Now, I don't think the app has it built in, but I think the browser does. You can stream direct to YouTube, but I've never tried it. I don't understand why you would do it because nowadays you can use things like Prism on a mobile device as an encoder, like OBS or OBS on a PC. I don't recommend Streamlabs. They're an awful company. Just Google it yourself, Reddit it yourself. They're a terrible company. Don't use them. Anywho, so we're gonna do this. I don't have a bunch of network tools set up right now on this computer, so I can't show you the stats without doxing myself. And I'm not gonna go in and re-edit out my IP and all that. But I can give you an idea. Mind you, this is on a 4090 gigabit internet. I provision my own network. I have high-end network gear, like very high-end. So a really nice router and such, and I'm set pass-through my gigabit, and pay for statics and everything like that. So anyways, most people don't go that route, but if you're getting into the higher-end stuff, you work from home, maybe you do. So we'll just go from there. Let's try a different game, huh? Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, is Doom on here? I don't even know if Doom is on here. I think. I don't know, is it? It's Doom Eternal on Steam. Not on Steam. Great search feature, by the way. They don't have the license for Game Pass version. Rip. I mean, they're always building stuff out. They're always adding stuff. So, I mean, I think once we see this change in Xbox's library going all to cloud, it is in with your library, like everything you own in it, not just Xbox first party. I think we're gonna see a huge change in that. Just not currently, unfortunately. Look at them all, but still, it's a lot. It's a lot of, like, every time I do this, I'm like, I don't know what to play. I don't know what to play because I'm like I own so many games across all these platforms. My options are just like, it's just too much. It's like, damn, man, that's too much. I have way too many games to play. I was trying to think of something like we just jump into that's not gonna like go through a whole process, and I can't. I don't want to like mess with my settings one way or the other either. That's a really pretty game. That's a crazy game. That's a fun game. That is so cool that this is on there. You can have a lot of fun online with that. Like a lot of fun. Obviously, you get games like that, which actually, man, that's not a bad PUBG-ish game. And Helldivers. Oh yeah, we haven't even played that. I haven't even played that on here. I haven't played that since like it launched, man. It kind of just, I don't know, it kind of just fell off for me. It didn't blow me in the water. That's a good one. We could talk about games all day. That's like my favorite. I think it's my favorite zombie game ever. So let's just do it. Yeah. So realistically, I only see like, so I'm doing a 40,000, so a 40 meg upload 4K stream to YouTube right now. So I got 40 going out. And we'll see what happens when I'll tell you what it pulls. And that's also dependent on what you stream at. So right, so what your settings are for your stream and where you're streaming to, but like, because YouTube and Twitch are not the same. you know, Twitch is a more complicated answer now with the enhanced encoding with video cards, through video cards, because it can actually, I've actually pulled 14,000 on their tests. So it's a really complicated answer for Twitch, but essentially, let's call Twitch 8K, 8,000, 8 megabytes, upload, and then whatever your download is for the game that you're playing. Now that also is going to depend on, are you playing it at 4K? Are you playing it at max 1080p settings? Like, what are you playing it at? And then you have your encoding and decoding on your GPU for whatever device, and that could, or on your CPU that you're running the OBS off of. So you could be anywhere from 20% to say 60%. It just depends. Depends on what you're ideally doing. But let's say 1080p stream to Twitch. You play this, you have this service for $8 a month. And make sure you live close, you know, decently to a server. You know, do the server check like I've shown in my other videos. And make sure you have a decent experience. And yeah, you can have a 4K gaming machine that you could play and stream with a really low end PC, because all you really need for is encoding. And as long as you have the internet and a decent look, we just jumped right into this. A decent you know, I'd say the last like probably even 10 years port, Ethernet port, you know, in NIC card, whether it's built in or not, you shouldn't have an issue. I love this game. They just keep adding stuff and keep doing stuff. It's probably one of the best zombie games there ever is. And boy, has it come far from launch. Wow, that looks good. There's some settings that are off here. Okay, let's see what's going on. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. in 4K. FSR 2. Unfortunately, there's not. Excuse me. What that was? I'm getting a sore throat after. I'm still sick. I'm on the struggle bus still. No. Oh God, no. Oh, views is really down. Just get that to like 70 at least. Why are we in? Oh. Yeah, I don't really recommend any ray tracing on AMD cards. And that's where the NVIDIA really beats out this service with GeForce, is you do have ray tracing. And but the argument there too is like, over a compressed cloud gaming, like, does it really matter? Not really, no. I think rasterization is what matters. However, DLSS will blow the socks off of FSR, and this is only FSR 2 and not FSR 3, which is a shame. I really hope they start building this stuff up for newer engines. Vertical sync is on to what though? That's the what is the VC even set to? I don't even know. It's got to be set to 60. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Hold on. That's a really interesting thing too, because if you have VSync, because that can be wrong a lot of times without a manual, and we have no control over that. It's an interesting thing I just thought of. Especially if you're window borderless, which what that? What the hell? Ooh! So I messed with the okay, this does not like uncapped frame rate. I can tell you that right now. That vision could go back on. We're balanced. See. Set shadow quality. This game, I have a 4090, okay. Without ray tracing, this game will beat the shit out of my GPU. It's a lot of game. There we go, this is respectable. Alright, so I'm pulling, yeah, I mean, I'm pulling 60-ish megs. The stream is the OBS is unphased. Now again, this is my experience with my setup, and you should have a similar one. Granted, my encoding is probably going to be better than most with the 4090. I realize that I'm very lucky to have that. However, it's a really good test bench, because if a 4090 can't do it with 3700K, then you got a pretty good idea where you're at with whatever hardware you're out there in the world using. And I have a pretty good idea too. Like I know a lot about encoding. I know way too much about encoding and the server setups and how the back end works of these servers and Amazon servers and platforms. I know all the ins and outs. I've worked with plenty of companies. I've worked startups. I've been through all the testing. That's what I do on the side. Games, services, you name it. I know a little bit about the coding, just from like what I teach myself. I don't know enough to be a wizard, but I know enough to help and to go, okay, if I can't figure it out, now it's time to call in the devs and the creators of whatever software and GitHubs. This one's great though. Let's see how far we can get the. Let's see. We're in performance now though, like that's crazy. That's why my only thing is like at the end of the day, I hope we see an upgrade in GPUs on this because a 7900 XT is already outdated. I hate to say that, Boosteroid, I love you guys, you know I do, but it's already outdated. And I realize this stuff is like extremely expensive. And that's where you see the price hike within GeForce. At the same time, it's their own product. But, you know, it's hard to do this stuff, man, where people are like, Xbox should just do 4K. Like, do you know how expensive it is to push out 4K, let alone have the hardware to do it and the encoding and the band? Like, it's expensive, dude. But that's where I think things with where things with AV1 comes in place, and then you have, you know, Intel art cards. You know, they're really cheap. They're $100. They can run 4K streams for encoding like super easy. Then you save money with that. You save money with or even older CPUs. You could just buy like older bin CPUs, and then you have AV1, which is going to save a ton of money. But then the play hardware itself is where you run into the problem because it's expensive still. I mean, a 7900 XTX is the bare minimum, in my opinion, for 4K. And you're like, oh, Boosty Beer, but I saw this playtest. Like, dude, there's so many games that are out. I promise you, as a 3700K i7 4090 owner, ray tracing or not, 99% of the time I have to run DLSS to have an acceptable 4K high ultra setting experience. 99% of the time. And that's still with a ton of games, even Fortnite, that will just destroy my setup. It looks good. It's getting better. DLSS 3.5 is amazing. But there's a lot of these new engines and games that are just, we're not there yet. A 5090 hopefully could do 4K. And you're going to go, oh, well, you don't need higher ultra settings. You can't tell the difference. That is a myth. That is all the reviewers and test bench nerds out there need to redo their videos on that, because even if you look at Digital Foundry and stuff like they found in the new Star Wars game, and hidden settings and things like that, there are games with ray tracing and the new lighting and the way they are doing AI upscaling. There's games that look drastically different from medium, high, ultra, and then whatever's above ultra in a lot of these games now, because we're getting into like really high-end assets and shadows and lighting tech, like and processes and yada yada. A new Unreal Engine 5, oh my god, there's games that from high, like, and don't get me wrong, they look great in high settings, but ultra's like, no, that's where you want to be, because that's their like full-on immersive, like as intended experience. But a 4090 can barely do it. And I'm gonna tell you right now, ray tracing does make a difference when done right. Like for like a cyberpunk game, or like even a game like this. Hell, I would even argue Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 looks fantastic. That being said, games going forward are just going to be harder and harder to run. Spider-Man, the Forbidden West, those games are old. And they look amazing, but oh, your die should kill you. But I did. So when you come at me with the whole like, oh, I could get 400 frames with the 7900 XT, yeah, but you're turning on settings, you're using FSR 2 or 3, which FSR 3 is a lot better than 2, but it's way worse than a DLSS. I play on a OLED. Okay, I play on a 42-inch OLED. It's a C2. It's a great all-around monitor. You know, it, in my opinion, like bang for your buck is the only way to go. And you can literally see things way better than you think with your IPS, whatever you got, or even your mini LED. There's some good mini LEDs. I'll take that back, but they're for the price. You might as well get an OLED monitor. You can get an OLED 32-inch. That you will start to see like, oh, reflective surfaces, lighting, textures, shadows. You're like, oh no, I've never, this stuff actually matters. But again, that is if you're that customer. If you're trying to be a 4K high-end, I'm going to buy a PS5 Pro because I have a nice OLED. Otherwise, what the fuck is the point? And I'm being blunt. Like, if you want to play 4K DLSS FSR balanced or performance settings on low or medium, you don't go 4K, go 1440. Or unless you're just a purely like couch co-op or couch solo player that like, oh, I happen to have a 4K TV, and like, okay, but then buy a console, dude. Don't invest in a PC, man. It's not worth it. People will like, well, I can get a 4070 Ti or 4080 or a 7900 XT and I'll be a 4K. No, you're not. You're gonna live in upscaled, low resolution, 99% of the time, and low textures and low settings. Not really the crisp 4K. Like you're better off 1440p, 120, 140 hertz, high settings with a OLED or a nice screen, and it'll look great and respond great, and you can play your competitive games. That's where a service like this, I think, is good for people really to try out anyways. Like, I think a lot of people get into the higher end GPUs. I say higher end. I don't know that I would even say a 7900 XT is a higher end anymore because it's beat by so many other things. It's a good GPU for pure performance, especially now how cheap they are. But have an expectation too when you buy an AMD that like you're gonna have a lot of headaches. And yeah, I think, don't get me wrong, I think NVIDIA cards are way overpriced, but they don't compare. I think you can even honestly go with a new Intel Arc card when the new gen come out and probably get more bang for your buck, but they did some crazy stuff with those cards over the last couple years. Anyways, we're on a tangent here. Test something like this out, or GeForce Now, for a month, and like really get an idea of like, oh, do I need 4K? How does 4K even look on my screen? Is it worth it? Or am I cool with just low settings, but at least I have the crispiness of the resolution? Me personally, I don't see a point of buying into the stuff. If you're gonna buy into luxury like items, do that. Do exactly that. Otherwise, don't spend your money on it. To be like, yeah, I have it, but then it doesn't run with the crap. Here's my thing. The reason I went all in and got rid of my consoles, and I mean, I got help with my build. I didn't pay off those pockets. There's no way I could afford it. Is because I was sick of going in, and I still have to now, but I was sick of going to every single game in 4K and have to tweak the shit out of it just to play it at a decent frame rate. And I was seeing that over and over again, especially in these newer titles. And of course, all the indie and early access, which half a PC gaming is early access, and it never leaves early access. But yeah, for a game like this where it takes months, or even Call of Duty, Black Ops 6 runs like trash. The game looks like it's 20 years old, and it runs awful. I beat both zombies. Pat me on the back. Tell me I'm awesome. Anyways, I've had no problems with this. We've been doing this for about 20 minutes. I hope this answers your question. Anybody else has any kind of other questions out there? If it doesn't, reach out again. Feel free. This run's great. Stream's been running great. I'm using like 40%. encoder, and about that in GPU. Running this now, you gotta keep in mind running this 4K image and moving it around a lot. If you do it on a single PC, you will use quite a bit of encoding power and GPU overhead. So like your 3D performance. And that'll come, obviously you use more if you have a bunch of scenes and cameras and browser sources and chats and because a 4K image is quite a bit to process. Now this is 4K in 4K, so I'm playing this in 4K, running the encoder, the OBS at 4K, so it's still using a lot of encoding power. Now if I tick the box to downscale it to 1080p, of course that's gonna save quite a bit on performance. It'll still use a lot of encoding power, but not as much, and it'll cut down the overall GPU usage for the image. So you'll give yourself some more overhead. Now if you're trying to do this straight to YouTube, have that expectation that you're going to use quite a bit of horsepower trying to do this. As far as the GPU and hardware side goes, 4K is just a lot on any hardware really. Like I said, I have a 4060 on my machine that we're recording this on right now, and it is getting its ass beat. I don't really know why, because it shouldn't be, because the same encoder chip that the 4090 does, my 4090 just has 2. Little pro tip out there, they changed it on the 40 series cards for people looking at them. You can now do up to I think 12 or 20 sessions of encoding, so you can multi-encode off of any 40 series. I just don't recommend buying anything else if you're gonna be a content creator. There's no point buying anything else. If you're gonna do a single box machine, if you're gonna do a dual box machine, 1000% get you a cheap A380 Intel art card. Those things can encode like you've never seen before. They're pretty insane what they can do. However, they're not going to work with the enhanced broadcasting on Twitch. Only really the newer cards will. Well, I think actually the 30 series might, but I'm not even sure on that. I don't remember now. But with the 40 series, you only get the dual encoder chips, like onboard chips, with the 4070 Ti and above, I believe. That's kind of stuff that like you just don't know. They don't really tell you. But if you had a 4070 or 1440p streaming and you want to play 1440p and get like 144 hertz and 1080 60 like really good stream, you could turn up the encoder settings, which is more than just bandwidth, by the way. There's actually stuff you can go in and tweak. You'll get by just fine. I would say 4070 Ti or 4080 would be where you want to be for longevity, but you know, that's a big budget. Would not even bother with an AMD card with a single system. You know, if you got a 7900 or 7900 XT system built with like a 7800 for pretty cheap nowadays, and then you built an encoder, like a Intel encoder box for a couple $100, that'd make sense. But I just wouldn't even bother with the encoding AMDs. They don't do a very good job. They break every other update, every other firmware, and the quality's just not quite there. So, you know, if you're like on the fence because you got to spend $200 more to go to the NVIDIA side, save the money. Like, save the money and go to the NVIDIA side and save yourself the headache on the long run. Plus, you get a lot better support from third party as well. There you go. That's the 30-minute answer to your question, I hope. But I think it plays great. I don't have a way to like frame rate count because it's through the cloud system. Because I mean, I could turn mine on here, but you know, you're gonna see the speed level at 120. It's only it's not gonna be accurate because it's only reading the app, but not necessarily the game running. So, Boosteroid, try it out. I mean, you know, people are on the fence of trying it, and even if you don't know you like cloud gaming, try GeForce Now's for free for a month. or this, and then sign up for the annual. I don't see how you lose with this price. And they're gonna stay unlimited, so I would totally do this instead. I think it's a great service for the price. I will say my biggest gripe though is that a 7900 XT is going to cause a lot of problems with people thinking they can do 4K 20. And like every game out there, and it's just like, it's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. Like, you're gonna have to tweak a lot of games down to get where you want to be, unfortunately. I'll see you on the next one.